Okay, so let's get on to the second exercise. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy, but I like for you guys to create a new artboard for each of these exercises so that you have it separately. But for me to kind of show you some layer management for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to use the same artboard. I'm going to bring this JPEG and just kind of drag it in. And now I have it in here. It's quite large, so I'm going to reduce it. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but when you reduce a shape, be mindful that when I grab the corner, I could actually change the proportion of this shape and kind of destroy the original intent of the artwork. So let me undo. Before you start to move the corners, if you hold down the shift button, it'll actually shrink proportionally. So that's actually quite important. So I'm going to shrink it so it can fit in my artboard. Also, I no longer need the other layer because I'm already done with my exercise. So I'm going to take this other layer here, unlock it, delete it, drag it into this trash can. And then I have this work layer here. I'm just going to create a new layer. Also, just delete that layer. Oh, nope. Okay, so this is interesting. So I had the work layer active, and when I drag this in, so this file and that file is on the same layer. So obviously I could just select this and erase it, but let's just say that you didn't want to erase this part and you want this on a different layer. So take a look at this layer. You don't see anything here, but once I select this, you see this little red dot? It just means something is selected. And I think layer 2 is empty, so I'm going to drag that red dot over, and that's how you move an object from one layer to the next. So now that's on layer 2, and the work layer is nothing. Okay, and so layer 2, I'm going to just rename it, I don't know, image, so that I know what that is. I'm not going to lock it quite yet. And then the work layer, I mean, I can delete this and create a new layer, but I think at this point, you guys get my point about layer management or basic layer management. I'm just going to delete that. And then, is there something else here? Nope. Okay. So let's say I want my work layer and then I start creating my shape. Take a look at what happens. My square is behind my image. But even if I go to arrange and say bring to front, it'll never be in front of this image because that layer, the image layer, is on top of my work layer. So what I want to do is I just want to drag that image layer below the work layer. Now my work layer is on top of the image layer. And then of course within each layer you could change the arrangement, what's in front and what's in back. Okay, so I'm going to lock this and get rid of that. And let's just see. So I'm holding that Alt scroll, and I don't know if I'm going to spend the time to do the whole poster. I'm going to do as much as I can, or maybe this video will be in a couple of parts. That way you guys can take it in doses. So I think I'm going to stop this video in about 10 minutes and then I'll carry on. But here is this little blob cloud, and it's actually easy and not easy. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my rectangle tool, just have my stroke, and let's just make sure that my opacity is at 100%. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of create a rectangle, roughly that size. And I'm going to grab the little circle in the front and kind of bring it in to make it this pillbox shape. And then I'm also going to reduce that in. So that's a pretty good trace. So I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to go to my selection tool here, hold down Alt, make a copy of it. You could see this one's actually a little bit fatter. So I'm going to bring it up, bring it down. And, it won't let me reduce it any more than that. It's the product of this height. If that's higher, I can reduce it a lot more. If that's lower, it won't let me reduce it because the radius is preventing me from. So, you kind of have to get the right size there. And then let's just reduce all the corners. That looks good. I'm going to use my arrow key to kind of line it up. And I say that's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to combine these two and create a shape. But before I do that, I'm going to save a couple of these so that I don't have to recreate it, because I'm going to have to use it to kind of fill in this area and that area. I'm going to select these two and use my shape builder or Pathfinder. Let's do Pathfinder this time. I can select these two and I can say combine. And that's the same thing as the shape builder. Now what I need to do is I need to make this little guy right in here and that guy. So I'm going to bring this guy here. But actually, this is a little bit more difficult because if I do this, I can't combine this guy and that guy because there's nothing here, right? This shape is that. So if I kind of bring it up here, there's nothing here because let's see, let me fill that shape too. You see that? So there's nothing to combine to. So I actually need to kind of recreate this little wedge shape. And one way to do that is to kind of create a square. Actually, I'm gonna create a square, but I'm gonna hold down the shift so that I get a perfect square, and I can reduce it later. So let's just do that. And then if I take my direct selection tool, of course I could kind of shape it, right? And I'm gonna undo that. And then so I have 4 nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, that makes a square. What I want to do is I want to select this using my direct selection tool, and then go to object, and I'm going to take that path, it's a path, and I'm going to add anchor points. And what it did was it added, here I'm going to reduce that stroke smaller so you can see it. It added more anchor points. So then I'm going to pull this guy in like this and make sure I'm right at the center, right? So here, the reason why I needed the anchor points, because if I try to pull this guy in without the additional anchor points, it's just going to do that, right? But having the extra anchor point here and here allows me to do this. So that's why I did what I did. And then I'm going to go to my selection tool here. And give me a second. I'm going to pause. Need a break. Okay, so now you're going to take your direct selection tool. Sorry, I had to pause to take a break, so hopefully my dialogue wasn't too crazy. Where did that go? There it is. So it's kind of funky. It wasn't showing up earlier, but now it's showing up. So if it doesn't show up, go ahead and select it first with the selection tool, and then hit the direct selection, and then you get these little cool little radius tabs, and you're going to pull that over. Okay, give me a second. Let me figure something out. Okay, I'm back. So if I pull that, you notice that all the radius changes, and I don't really want that. So you want to go to your direct selection tool, just select that anchor, and then you get this little radius tool just for that anchor. And you want to take it all the way up so you get this nice little arc. And that is what I'm going to use for here. Let me change the color so that we could actually see a little bit. And obviously I need to make it a little bigger maybe. Yeah, I think that's good. So then I can combine that shape and that shape, right? You can see that the stroke is 1 point, and this is also, let's put a stroke here. Let's put a black stroke there. 1 point. You want to make sure that you get a nice clean overlap, but that's not so easy sometimes because the strokes get in the way. So what you could do is you can go to Windows or View and go to Outline. So you just see the pure line work here. So then I could snap that there. And of course I could reduce this size here. Oh, let me just reduce that a little bit. And clearly, if I was doing this on AutoCAD, it would be infinitely easier. But of course, this is an Illustrator class. So, but if this was my office work, I would literally, like I told you guys before, I would use the best tool available. And in this case, it would have been AutoCAD. Let me kind of fumble with this and make sure, and maybe you guys can find a better way to do this. But right now, this is, at least for the intro, this is probably going to drive you guys crazy. So excuse me, but do the best you can. All right, I think I'm gonna live with that, guys. So let's not get. I don't want you to get too bogged down on technical stuff. I just want you guys to get an overview. So I'm not going to be concerned whether it's perfect. Okay. So come back in here. So now I have this shape here, which is a solid shape. Let me change the color so you guys can see the difference. And I have this shape, which is another color on top, right? So what I need to do is now I need to combine these two guys and then do that. So that's how you do that part. This part, I think, actually, I think I'm going to need this. I'm going to make a copy of it so I can rotate it. And obviously I'll use that over here. And again, you guys don't have to be perfect. So I'll select all three of these. Actually, I'm going to save this because I have a feeling that we're going to be using that in many locations. I'm going to select all three. Again, you could do combine, or you can use a shape builder and just kind of draw across all three of them. And then there you go. So we have our first little pillow cloud, and I have something floating here. Let's get rid of all this junk. Okay, so that little sample took me 12 minutes. I'm going to stop. But I suggest that once you figure this out, try it again and try it again, and where you get really familiar with how to snap these things together, okay, and be geometrically tight.